All right. Good morning, everyone. Melissa here. I am tired and a bit worn out. I feel like I'm coming down with something, but I'm still going to work because it's not like something I can't overcome and get a second wind. Last night I was on the phone with Mr. Leandro and I told him to take care many times, but he wanted to engage. So I gave him what he wanted. He wanted to have a further conversation and attack me some more with lies and uh, so he had said basically, he would take me to court for defamation, bring it, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, let's bring it because I have all kinds of proof of my husband's family for about 30 years or so just attacking me on social media. I still have stuff from Carrie May. I have, Ben's mother wanting him to divorce me, meddling in my marriage. So I have Kevin accusing me of an affair. I have him saying I followed someone to KW, which I never did. I actually used a real estate agent to help me find more resources so we wouldn't lose our home because we had a landlord selling out from under us. I'm just looking for the bus guys. So I have defended everything, and he was like, you chose abortion, you lied about your parents, and although the guy was never there, I said, actually, no, it runs in the family. I said, no, my mom lied to me, told me not to sign the papers, basically, and had me sign a paper with no informed consent. And plus the paper doesn't even inform you. So there was no informed consent. I got the paperwork later. It just said there was a bunch of tissue. So the lies in the abortion industry are huge. So yeah, I had an aunt who had an abortion. I had another relative who had, a former relative who had three, and it just it's the mindset that my dad had. I mean, he was an atheist and he didn't believe in God, so of course abortion's not going to be something that he really has a conscience to really care about. So I told him, murder's murder and you shouldn't murder your grandchild. So a lot of parents will save face and then they will put on an act and say, oh, I'm the grandparent and I want to look good, and when you do have kids later on. So Kevin, he goes on to say, you're not a very honest person. And I said, you're right. You're right. I'm not a very good or honest person in of myself, basically. Anything you call me would still not do justice because I am a sinner. And that's honest, guys. That is an extremely honest person who can come over to someone who's insulting them and say, you know what? Whatever name you call me in the book, it's not even close to what I truly am. So we truly know, when we know ourselves, that we are not in of ourselves a good person. We know that we are not people who are totally honest all the time, right? And there's nothing wrong with admitting that. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to tell you here that I have not always, you know, told 100% of uh, truth. Uh, Although I try to, I try to. It's just human nature that we are not always going to be where we should be. And that's why we need the gospel, right? I do try to be a good person, but it's not in of myself. It's because I am a child of God's, and that's what brings the fruit of trying to be a good person. And it's not even that I'm totally just trying in my own strength. It's walking by the Spirit, and the Spirit God reveals as you're His child changes in you, right? And I've been walking for God with 30 years, 31 years or so, 32, been walking with God. And when you get at this point and, Kevin tries to attack you and say lies about you, we're not in a battle of flesh and blood. It's a spiritual battle, right? So come right out with it. Yeah, I'm a sinner, and so are you, and so is he, and so is Donna, and so is Rob and Carrie. and my husband. So what we want to do in that case is choose good principles to get through things, right? So so we try to be honest with one another, but if somebody's setting you up, you don't owe them the truth. And he actually tried to accuse me many times of an attempted affair with somebody, and I'm like, "Were you there? Were you there? No, you weren't. So you don't know the whole story." And then he tried to accuse me again last night of having an issue with a church in Concord. And I'm like, you know what? We're all good, basically. We're all good over there. And, you've been played. So he's trying to come across as he knows some things that he doesn't know. I'm like, what does this church have to do with any of this? This has nothing to do with this church at all. So, stand up to the lies, guys. And then he actually tried to use God against me. He's like, oh, you lied about this, and God knows it. God is my Father in heaven, right? So, as recently, too, as you learn to go to God as your Father, when you pray, we say, Our Father in heaven. So, I was reading a book that said, when you pray, it's not even so much about going through a list of praying a certain way. It's about receiving God as your Father when you're getting ready to pray. And I know that's hard for a lot of women who have had a distant father, or a father who has hurt you, you know, unintentionally or intentionally. So he's like,